If Maduro falls, Putin could be next, not with bullets, with oil and influence. Here's the chain reaction. The capture of Nicolás Maduro doesn't just threaten his rule, it could threaten Vladimir Putin's entire system. And it all comes down to two things: weapons and oil. Here's why. For decades, Russia has used weapons exports as more than business. Selling tanks, air defenses, and missiles wasn't just about money, it was about leverage. If you buy a Russian rifle, that's a transaction. If you buy a Russian air defense system, that's dependency. You need spare parts, software updates, training, political goodwill. Before the invasion of Ukraine, Russia earned up to $15 billion a year selling weapons. That money mattered, but the real value was influence. Weapons exports gave Russia access to governments, to military bases, to long-term political relationships. That system is now collapsing. Since the war began, Russian weapons exports have fallen from billions to almost nothing. Some estimates put them below $1 billion a year. Why? First, Russia needs its weapons for itself, but more importantly, the world has seen how Russian weapons perform. In Ukraine, Russian tanks, artillery, aircraft, and air defenses failed against Western systems, and buyers noticed. Countries like India are already walking away. One of the biggest customer defections in modern arms history, and then came Venezuela. Venezuela was supposed to have the strongest air defenses in South America, a mix of Russian systems and Chinese radar, designed for one purpose: stopping the United States. But when the US launched its raid in Caracas, those defenses failed completely. Russian S-300 systems, Pantsir point defenses, Chinese stealth killer radars, none of it worked. American helicopters flew in, landed troops, and flew out. Not a single one was shot down. In one video, a Russian-made shoulder-fired missile is launched at a US helicopter. It misses. Moments later, the launch site is erased. If Venezuela couldn't stop US helicopters, why would anyone trust these systems in a real war? That failure didn't just embarrass Venezuela, it shattered Russian credibility. And credibility is everything in the weapons market. As countries abandon Russian weapons, they also abandon Russian influence. Military ties weaken, political access dries up. Russia is being slowly cut off from the world, but the Maduro raid exposed something even worse. At the same time, a Venezuelan tanker slipped through US blockades. It was carrying oil, headed toward Russia. The ship was part of Russia's shadow fleet, a network laundering oil to bypass sanctions. When US Navy helicopters boarded the ship, the crew tried a desperate move. They painted a Russian flag on the hull, claimed Russian protection. A Russian submarine moved to intercept, and then nothing happened. Russia backed down, publicly denied the ship, called the seizure piracy, did nothing. The world noticed. For the first time, the United States openly seized a Russian-linked tanker, and Russia blinked. That moment mattered. It showed that Russia can't protect its interests anymore. And now comes the real danger: oil. Venezuela holds the largest proven oil reserves on Earth. For years, corruption kept production low. That suited Russia. Less Venezuelan oil meant higher prices. Higher prices meant more money for Moscow. But a post-Maduro Venezuela changes everything. Western companies are expected to return. Production could rise above 3 million barrels a day. That would crush global oil prices. And oil prices are Russia's lifeline. Russia is a fossil fuel state. Its economy lives and dies on oil and gas. At the worst possible time, that lifeline is being cut. Ukraine has already crippled Russian refineries with precise drone strikes. Refining capacity has dropped sharply. Fuel shortages are hitting civilians. Russia's war chest is nearly gone. Sanctions are biting. The economy is cracking. Now add falling oil prices to that mix. Lost weapons sales, lost influence, collapsing energy revenues. A long war. This is how systems collapse. Russia is weaker than it has been in generations. So weak that events on the other side of the world can threaten its survival. Whatever comes next in Venezuela, it won't be good for Russia. The house Putin set on fire is burning down around him, and the question now is simple. How much longer can Russia afford to keep fighting? Old mean the end of Russia.